Sex and the City, Transmedia at its sexiest. Candace Bushnell, a sassy, sexual single woman that forever has changed society's views on men and women in the dating scene. As a young lady, Candace lived in an apartment in New York City. In 1993, she began writing columns for the New York Observer. The columns were titled Sex and the City. Each column read of the stories that Candace and her friends have experienced while taking the non-traditional role of a frivolous woman. Although the columns were real-life experiences, she did use her alter ego character Carrie Bradshaw instead of herself. In 1997, the columns were published into an anthology, also titled Sex and the City. Candace's book became a success, each chapter building on the nasty truth behind sex, relationships, and living in upper-class Manhattan. The book's main character, Carrie Bradshaw, was a columnist that wrote her columns based off of her and her three girlfriends' experiences with men. Each character designed with a realistic and unique role, but Carrie was the narrator, so she set the tone. Not long after Sex and the City had been released, HBO picked it up as a series. In 1998, Sex and the City flooded the homes of the American people every Sunday night. With the character Carrie Bradshaw played by Sarah Jessica Parker, Charlotte played by Kristen Davis, Miranda played by Cynthia Nixon, Samantha played by Kim Cattrall, and the unforgettable leading male Mr. Big, played by Chris Noth, the series became a success. Every episode had a different experience, yet the story continued in a serial form. Viewers were able to get to know each character with great detail. Charlotte, a straight-edge hopeless romantic that works in an art gallery, spends her time looking for Mr. Perfect or the knight in shining armor. Samantha, a sexually charged outspoken businesswoman in public relations, spends her time looking for the greatest lay. Miranda works as a lawyer. She has cynical views towards men and seems to be cold to the idea of having a relationship. Carrie is the balance between the three. She's optimistic like Charlotte on some things, cynical like Miranda on others, and can't really seem to keep a steady relationship like Samantha. She's fashion savvy and has two obsessions: expensive shoes and Mr. Big. No matter how many relationships she has, she always follows her heart back to Big. Then there's Big. He's a sarcastic yet charming, handsome guy that just can't seem to commit to Carrie, thus why she has so many love interests. Sex and the City was nominated for over 50 Emmy Awards and won 7 times. It was also nominated for 24 Golden Globe Awards and won 8 times. Also, it was listed in Time magazine's 100 Best TV Shows of All Time. The series might have begun as a spin-off from the anthologies that Candace Bushnell wrote, but it went much further. Over the course of 6 seasons, Carrie and the girls went through many relationships and major changes in their lives. A transformation had begun to take place among each and every one of them. By the final season, Charlotte gave up her ideas of having the perfect man and learned to love a short, bald, quirky Jewish guy. Miranda went from a career-minded lawyer in Manhattan who despised the idea of a relationship to a mother and a wife in Brooklyn. Samantha finally found the one man who satisfied her sexually and emotionally. And Carrie and Big finally connect, this time for good. But just when the viewers think it's all over, no more cosmopolitans and dolling up on Sunday nights with the Sex and the City girls, the media hits us with the best sneak peek news ever. Sex and the City the movie. Yes, and the story continues. In 2008, just 4 years after the series ended, Michael Patrick King wrote, produced, and directed the first movie of Sex and the City. All the leading ladies and the men return for the film and pick up the story 4 years after where they left off from the 6-season series. The second Sex and the City movie came out in 2010. The crazy foursome continues to experience relationships' ups and downs. The film also brought in cameo appearances like Liza Minnelli, Miley Cyrus, and Penelope Cruz. I'm sure when Candace Bushnell wrote her very first column for the New York Observer, she never dreamed that her personal stories would expand over multiple media platforms. She has reached out and touched many issues among men and women when it comes to sex, love, and relationships. Not to mention that she very well could have boosted the economy with women and their fashion inspiration from the show. Although her columns and some of her anthologies were personal experience, she continued the fictional lives of the characters beautifully through books, television, and film. But Sex and the City does not end. Candace Bushnell has written another book titled The Carrie Diaries. The book is about Carrie Bradshaw and her high school years prior to Sex and the City. Yet another way to really get to know the character and her experiences. Rumor has it that CW is going to be starting a television series based off of this book. Candace Bushnell also added another book to her collection, Summer in the City. It's about Carrie Bradshaw's first summer in New York. Sex in the City was also marketed through merchandise and accessories such as trivia games, watches, t-shirts, wine glasses, perfume, iPods, Barbie dolls, wooden dolls, lottery tickets, etc. And for those who wanted the look of Carrie Bradshaw but could not afford it, companies even came up with dress patterns for sewing yourself. Once Sex and the City, the HBO series, became a hit, corporations and companies teamed up knowing that especially women would purchase such merchandise. Grassroots communities started to form their own merchandise and websites that were less than flattering to the series. In June 2011, a Sex and the City mixtape was made and is able to be downloaded free off of the website lateshoes.com. A list of provocative songs and a photo of the Sex and the City girls with the faces of men. Other grassroots communities made sex toys and dolls using the series as their inspiration. Sarah Jessica Porker loves Big Blow Up Doll. It's quite possible that things as derogatory as this could have an effect on the reputation of the show or product, but I doubt it in this case given the show is entirely based around sex. It's no surprise that other corporations and companies decided to make fun of the series, such as the website Sex in the Sim City. It's a short video clip that comically interprets Sex in the City, the movie too. Candace Bushnell began Sex in the City as a column, then a book, a television series, and so far 2 films, also adding 2 other books that give us background story on the leading character Carrie Bradshaw. Sex in the City may not have been started with the idea of making it a transmedia, but it's certainly turned into one. I am sure the lives of the characters from Sex in the City will not end anytime soon. Merchandise is still being made, grassroots are still designing fan clubs and websites, and many women still desire to be one of the girls from Sex and the City.